This is the North End. This is the North End.
What's up, YouTube? My name is Paul Forrest, and this is the North End, a Premier League fan channel, which means we like the Premier League, and we have enough stuff to say that we want to point cameras at ourselves and talk about it to you guys, the audience, the unknown, the ether of space and time, hoping that you listen to us and acknowledge us with your likes and subscribes. That's what I'm after. I'm always after likes and subscribes. Well, guys, we have a special show for you today in that we are having a Director of Football challenge. This video will be about none other than Aston Villa and the future of Villa. Playing the role today of the Director of Football for Aston Villa Football Club will be none other than our Luke Connolly. Luke, I am very excited to give you the position of Director of Football of Aston Villa Football Club. You are now responsible for all the ins and outs of transfers, the promotion of players, the managing of a war chest, the manager, all these things are down to you. But first, I want you to be able to tell me and indeed our fans in a very public forum what you think the current state of affairs is at Aston Villa and what your vision for improvements looks like.
Well, thank you, Mr. Paul Forrest. It's a real honor to be at this club. Obviously, a prestigious club and one with a real bound of history and obviously a great lineage. And I'm looking forward to adding to that. So as a Villa fan my whole life, I'm excited to be here. Such as Dean Smith before me and many such great players and people. It's just great to be part of the fabric. I think Villa have got a wonderful opportunity to develop into one of the top teams in Europe. I really feel that the foundations are there. They need a little bit more put in. And just like I've done at my other roles at McDonald's, rising up the corporate ladder and recently doing same at Krispy Kreme, I feel that I can have that level of influence. So I'm delighted to be here. So thank you so much, Mr. Forrest.
I'm filled with confidence. Let's see what the fans have to say. JP California is watching the internet at home while the new Director of Football of his club breaks down the vision, I guess that's what you could say you just said, for Aston Villa. Let's see what JP California has to say about this. JP, how are you feeling with this appointment and what you've just heard from the new Director of Football for Aston Villa?
Hey guys, I'm very happy that we are looking to young and fresh, hungry people to help lead this club. But, you know, Villa's been burned many, many times before. We've had many players who come in and look like they're going to do the jobs, like Vertu and other players that we've gotten, a Rudy Gestede, who is going to push us onto Europe. And to me, I am tired of false dawns. I think it's time for Villa to actually be pushing for Europe and to actually be taking that next step, finishing in the top half of the table and fighting in the top half of the table the whole season. Not what we've seen this season, which is pretty torrid sometimes, with large spells of winless streaks. I think we've had 3 5-game winless streaks this season. So hopefully our new Luke Connolly can put us on the right ship with the right players to get us going in the right direction at the right end of the table.
Luke, do not feel the need to acknowledge this fan. He's below you and should not be speaking directly to you in the first place.
I know I shouldn't. And, you know, JP, I'm here for fans such as yourself that want to see better, that deserve better. You know, we're a mighty club, unlike the meager leagues and Burnleys and Manchester Uniteds. Like, this is a Villa with great potential and clarity and depth. So JP, thank you for your warm welcome, and you know, I hope to improve it. And under my lineage, I guarantee there will not be a bad haircut at this club. That is my promise to you.
We have to have that guarantee.
Pleasure.
JP California, we will be checking in with you shortly to hear your reactions to the ins and outs that Luke Connolly has in mind as Director of Football. Bye-bye until then. So you've got the job. You've broken it down to the press, to the fans. Everybody's excited. Your first decision is manager. Are you comfortable with your current setup? Do you want to move forward? Do you have an alternative in mind? What's your state of mind when it comes to the manager of Aston Villa? Lots of talk. You can talk.
Sorry, it froze for
Just-
a moment
just-
there.
Thinking.
Yeah, talking away. I should have gone. I'm very happy. I had a great conversation with Stephen just before we came on this, and he's really laid out kind of his ambitions for the club and his ambitions for himself with his managerial career. I think what he did at Rangers was incredibly impressive, and obviously we're seeing a great renaissance still going on there. But here at Villa, obviously he knows the level of the job that he's come on to, and he understands what the fans expect, what the players are expecting from him. And I think he's the guy to move us forward. So, huge fan of managers that come before him. Dean Smith, obviously a real patriarch of this club and someone that's gone from boyhood to adulthood as in all walks of life and now managing. And he did a wonderful job. And I think Stephen has a great network. He has a great ability to influence based on the incredible success he added as a player. And I'm excited to have him here. So we intend to invest in him. And we've identified a couple of key players which we feel are going to make the difference here at Aston Villa.
All right, so you're going to stick with CVG and you're going to back him in the transfer window. So let's talk about that.
We are
for this exercise, because it's, again, we're not really directors of football here. It's just an exercise. It's a hypothetical. It's the root of this game we're about to play.
What?
Luke has been given a hypothetical sum of 75 million as a war chest to spend as he sees fit as the director of football for Aston Villa. He can subsidize this sum by selling players on. I have acted as the market. He has asked me for prices of various players. I have provided the best guess what those prices are. We are not going to get into euros. We're not going to get into pounds. We're not going to get into dollars. It's an ambiguous million for whatever reason. But it's pretty close to what everybody's been bouncing around for rumors anyways. We do understand before everybody starts writing comments that all of these moves in one window is not possible, but it's an exercise in what could you do? What would you do? Almost like a video game. So Luke has been given 75 million. And I think what we're going to start with is, who do you want to move on? And after you've moved on all your players, we can review what your new total war chest is, and we can move into the more exciting ins to the club. So let's get into the players to move on. Luke, director of football, Aston Villa Football Club, giver.
Absolutely. Well, I believe you're going to bring them up one at a time, or yes. So thank you so much, Paul, doing a wonderful job. So Matty Target, great guy. I was both the person who was maybe with some strong words for him the season before, but in the COVID season, he was a wonderful player, great left back, and had a fantastic season. But unfortunately, he just doesn't seem to have the tenacity needed for us at left back. I don't think he has the speed. I am worried. I don't think he's what we need to progress forward. And now with Coutinho currently in the squad and doing a great job, I think he is surplus to requirements. So we wish him the best. Newcastle have agreed a 15 million transfer, and bar any changes, we'll be pleased to see him move on to another club with our best wishes. So Maddie, thank you. Courtney Horse, lovely guy, great kid. Just unfortunately not that centre back that we need right now. He's been a wonderful backup, and he's been a great rotation player. But this is why I've been brought in, Paul, to make these hard decisions. And if I'd wanted friendly faces, then we wouldn't have much of a football club. So Courtney, again, wish you the best. Out the door, a number of teams interested, and wish him the best, but not for us. Frederick, Mr. Gilbert. First off, I wanted to apologise to the poor man. He's been doing wonderfully on loan. He has bulked up a little bit. He looks very good. He had some bad injuries with us. I don't think he quite got the opportunity. As many international players, they'll come in and they just won't get the chance. So I think he'll do a great job at another team, and I think he is a very talented right back. But the Premier League is such an intense pace. I just don't think it's it for him. So yeah, we're going to move him on. This is a tough one. So this one I could still see going either way. If he was still with us next year, although I'm the director of football, we have to have more conversations with him. But he has been openly frustrated with his lack of chances for first-team football this year, and understandably so. He hasn't fallen into a couple of managers' team lines, and he's also had issues with injuries and things like that. So I think it's for the best. We don't want to risk, seeing his value just diminish to nothing. We don't want him to risk losing out on key years of his footballing career. So at this stage, we are looking and we are in a number of negotiations for around this mark. So he's been a great guy, but unfortunately just not for now. Again, another very, very difficult one. Douglas has been a great player for Aston Villa. He scored some wonderful goals, Brazilian international. Now we have more than one, which is very exciting. But I just feel this season we've seen not enough. And there was some rumours linking him with an Arsenal where I believe he'd do a wonderful job and be a great player. And I would be very happy to see Douglas Luiz stay. At the same time, I feel right now coming into the market, we have better potentials who fit the Villa style of play and the mentality of Aston Villa a lot better. So I believe that the best thing for both Douglas and ourselves is to move on and to seek better pastures. So yes, Douglas, thank you, but goodbye. Oh, what a man. What a man. He's come up clutch, as the young kids call it these days, with a number of key goals, a number of key performances. And, you know, without him, we more than likely would have been relegated. He scored some titanic goals in the end of that season to keep us up. And so I'm really, really sad to see. But I think Trezeguet has probably hit the end of his time with Villa, and international offers are coming in. Unlikely to have a contract renewal. We've had numerous conversations with his agent, and I think you'll expect to see him moved on this summer on a free transfer. El Ghazi, another player, and speaking from the heart, a player of great class and realistically has so much about him that should make him one of the best midfielders in Europe. He's strong, he's quick, he has a lot of keen ability. He just hasn't clicked. The Premier League is a beast like no other, and it takes no prisoners. So, Anwar, thank you for sticking with us during the championship and just being a great player to rotate and turn to. But right now we have to really be scaling up, and yes, we'll be taking what we can and moving on.
So that's a lot, but I think it had to be done. So let's look at what you've essentially done. You have raised 87 million, which will go on top of the money you were given. We'll talk about that in a second. And you've moved on the players that you see on the screen. I'm going to bring in our man, JP California, to have a bit of a reaction, just to see if he's heartbroken or surprised by any of the decisions you made. Let's assume that these outs all happened on the same day before any ins.
Yep.
Let's have that be the hypothetical. And then JP California, how are you feeling about the news that broke? The first sweeping brush strokes of the giant broom Luke Colony is holding at Aston Villa right now.
I mean, with all those outgoings, I'm shocked that we've gotten rid of someone of the caliber like Douglas Luiz and kept a player like Wesley or Davis, both of which I think are players that are probably going to move on anew this summer.
Wesley is already agreed he'll be going, so yes, that should have been mentioned. But yeah, that's a bit of a miss on our end.
You even got me on that one. I didn't even know that one. I think Davis is probably a player for the championship. Give us a few million pounds, whatever. But all in all those players were rightly so. The only one that I critique the most is Douglas Luiz. I think he is a future star, and I think 25 mil. The problem is the contract, right? He only has 1 year left. We have to get rid of him. 25 mil is pretty good for 1 year left. So take what we can get.
So are you hitting the Twitterverse? Are you like fucking Luke Connolly out? Like, what is this clown doing? Like, are you just let's see what he does?
He is the first guy to get me, and if he doesn't get it right on the first guy, I'm shaving his head. I'm shaving his head, holding him down, shaving his head.
Wow.
Good luck with
very
that.
specific.
Better men than you have tried.
JP
California.
That's a very specific fan threat
Big
from
words
JP
from a
California.
4'11" man.
All right. Well, it's going to get ugly, and I can control that. So bye-bye, JP California, before he accosts the director of football any further. I don't know.
I know. Can I get some added security? I think $1 million of what I brought in is going to be private security. So
you did raise 87 million, sorry. With that on top of your starting sum, you are now at 162 million as your war chest. This is where it gets interesting, folks. Now with 162 million to spend to improve Aston Villa and bring it to the future. Luke Connolly, director of football, who and how and when and where, what are the moves you're planning? What are the purchases you're planning? What are the promotions you're planning? over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. So yes, we've had the scouts out looking now for a couple of months, and there's been some rumors, number of rumors linking us with a lot of players, and we're excited. We're excited to be talking about who we're bringing. So the first one, I hope Villa fans are going to be excited by this. Ndika, a young French international playing out of his skin right now in Frankfurt. He's played, I've got his stats here, 31 games, 4 goals, 4 assists, 5 clean sheets, which isn't a lot, but they are also in pretty much a relegation battle-ish. So it has been a tough year for the team as a whole. He's highly regarded. He has everything that I'd look to for a centre-back partner. He's strong. He's young. He's 22. He looks very, very set. It's a tenacious league. It requires a lot of concentration. The Bundesliga, the fantastic teams ranging through there. And I believe that he has that step up. He's been French under 16, 18, 20, 21, all of that. And I believe he's definitely a future French international. So we've been out there. We've had a bit of a conversation, and we believe that we can secure this deal. So he's going to be one of our first names coming in. We're going to have him rolling into a very strong defensive partnership there, and a defensive, formation group as well. So very excited by Evan. Young Aaron Hickey. I will admit, as the director of football, I shouldn't have favourites, but I really do. I've been a real fan of this young lad for a while now, and a lot of experience. Steven Gerrard knows him well. He left the Scottish League to move to the Italian League, quite a step up, and has not struggled in the slightest, becoming one of Bologna's best players of the season. Again, his stats: 5 goals, 1 assist, 11 clean sheets from 34 games. Very, very impressive. And what I like about this young lad is he can play a number of positions. Left back is really his go-to. He's been deployed for at least 8 or 9 of those games at right back. He's also featured in the centre midfield role, like a CDM. And also, they've talked of, because of he's not small, he's a fairly tall lad as well. There's talk of him being able to do a decent job at centre back. So this is Austin McPhee who was coaching him back in Scotland, and he actually compared him to a young Busquets, which is an incredible comparison. But he said he is very adaptable, very quick, always wants to beat the man, always wants to learn, and just listens. And he said he's, from regard of actual talent, is very good. So we know he's around this point. We know there's other teams sniffing around, but we want him at Villa, and we're having a lot of conversation about giving him that game time that he so desperately wants at the top league. Good old James, Mr. Tarkowski. I was just on the phone to him and his lovely wife there the other day. Took him out for a nice pasta salad. James is a talisman of the Premier League at this stage. He's been floating around at Burnley, who, bad enough that they miswear our colours, but they've also been just meandering in the league. Again, Sean Dyche did a wonderful job, great guy, but James deserves more. We believe that here at Aston Villa, and that's what we've told him and his agent, and also his family. He's 29. He has 2 English caps to his name, and I believe he wants more. And I think right now, centre-back partnerships at England is maybe the one position that is a little more open. Your left backs are pretty much held down. Your right backs are inundated. But here, I think he has opportunity, and we want to give him that. We want him to really show that he deserves to be featuring in Mr. Southgate's plans. And Gareth has already spoken of his fondness of him, but I think Burnley is just not the club, and especially if they go down this season, which all will be seen. But last year of the contract on a free, it's a no-brainer. Bring him in, throw him straight in there. We know he's got the experience in the Premier League. We're very excited to get him in if we can. Sangar. So this is a very interesting one, and a lot of teams are looking at this young man. Price point, it's all over the place. We believe from conversation, this is what we can get him at. But he has a very formidable look to him. He is a very big lad. He's a strong lad. Very, very comfortable on the ball. Again, a bit more of his stats. 24, currently at PSV. So a real step up for leagues. 17 caps for Ivory Coast, which is very impressive. And he's been a real solid player for them. But what I most like about him is that he also has a couple of goals and assists to his name. So he likes to get forward. But we need that guy to be cleaning up in the middle. And we've looked at some other big names. Basuma we've been linked with. We're kind of easing away from that. We think Sangare is where we want to go. We think we're the right team for him. There's people linking him with maybe United and stuff, but I don't think they're going to go for him. I think you're going to see big pushes for likes of Declan Rice there. So we think he's the lad for us. 24, 6'3". Get him in that central mid, that's a defensive mid position, and we're looking a lot more solid there. Calvin, obviously a real birth of a player the last couple of years. Leeds fans have been, very akin to how good this young man is and how much potential he has. But he is obviously getting on a little bit now. He's getting older, still got a great career ahead of him. But there is a lot of competition in that English midfield, and we want to make sure that he keeps himself in the question. He keeps himself in the running to start. He was one of the standouts for England at the Euro, and we want to make sure that that continues. I believe, as harsh as it seems, that Leeds are unfortunately on borrowed time right now. I don't know where the wins are going from, and if our rumor is to be believed in conversations, we believe that he is available for a 25-minute buyout clause. We're coming in with a big contract. We are telling him that he's not just a player, he's a part of the fabric, and he's going to be a leading push as we rebuild this team. And rebuilding around him with his footwork, his control, definitely something we want to do. So bringing him in, great value, great player, looking forward to it. Young Coutinho, obviously. I say young because I feel old myself, but he is getting on. I think he's 29 now, is Philippe. But yeah, I don't have to talk about this man, do I? We know the incredible quality he's shown over the years at Liverpool, that humongous sale to Barcelona. The Bundesliga, great numbers, great return there. And I think he wants to play football again. He's had a bit of a torrid time over in Spain, and we know, and Barcelona, due to whatever reason, have got themselves in a bit of a financial situation and are being instituted to correct those wrongs. So we've had a lot of conversation. He has been a good influence for this team, and also, even not on the pitch, but just the players around him, having the likes of a Philippe Coutinho, a Brazilian international who's played at the likes of Barcelona and stuff like that in your team is a huge thing. And I think we've been benefiting. Emi Buendia looks so much better. Lads around him look better. And he has showed incredible glimpses of magic still. So I think there's more to come from him. We know we don't want to throw him in the deep end, but we feel it's a good price for a very good player who will have a holistic positive return for Aston Villa. So we're excited to get him in full-time on a contract, and he's working very well with us on the wages as well. Joe Aribo. Some people out there who maybe not be as akin with the Scottish League might not know a lot about him. Steven Gerrard is a big fan of this young lad, knows him well, played him, and has watched him kind of flourish and continue that run. So a couple of statistics. He's 25. He's currently at Rangers, who are obviously now Europa League final, which is a just incredible performance and achievement from a team that were, bankrupt and relegated to League Two of the Scottish League a couple of seasons ago. He has a 7.24 who scored average rating, which, considering the amount of games he's played, is very, very impressive. 31 games for Rangers this year. 8 goals, 6 assists, and he's had a further 3 assists in the Europa League. He's a very tricky kind of right midfield, kind of support, SS, that kind of thing. Loves playing as part of a top 3. Also is good at getting, likes to help out with the team, but a very quick, young, tenacious, gets a great ball in, and I think that's what we're looking, just a bit more clinical. And I think being around some of the players that we have already at this team, I think it's a great step up for him. And at 8 million, it's a good risk for us. It makes a good investment. So we're excited to get Joe in. Pascal, obviously, doesn't need much of an introduction. Obviously, at Bundesliga before his time at Brighton, and a team that just continue to exist, to be. That's what Brighton are. They're being. They will draw numerous games. They'll lose a couple, and then they'll hammer United 4-0. It makes no sense. Pascal is a very talented footballer. He's getting older. He's turning 30. He is 30, I should say. But he's, as we were alerted, available on a free. his contract negotiations have stalled, and we are very keen to get him in and to have him in that rotation. I think he would be excited to be involved with what we're building here at Aston Villa, and I think he's going to be a great investment for us. So on a free transfer, very excited, get him in. Another free transfer. Now, this is a bit of a difficult one. We've run into a bit more of a complexity on this because he has had a recent run of form and a recent showing of appearances. Wasn't given the opportunities at Arsenal that he deserves. There's a lot of great youth at Arsenal. Same here at Villa Park. We've expanded and really put money into the youth development program. Now, Eddie is needing first team football, and we believe we can give it to him. And that, I think, is going to be the key part. He's had a great run now at Arsenal, and he scored a number of goals, 4 in his last 4. However, there is no doubt in my mind Arsenal are going to go big for a striker this year. They are missing a key striker, and I feel that the same will happen to Eddie next season. Whereas what we're building here, we feel that we can build him into the team and get him in a lot more games than he would get. He's still young. He's still got a lot to offer, and I think a great career ahead of himself. So very excited to get him in. But yeah, great free transfer. Not going to cost us too much. As a hungry young lad who wants to play, and we want to give him that football that he deserves. Louis, I had dinner with him there last week and his wonderful wife. He bit through 3 bone steaks and a table, so it was a very interesting evening. But he's a great man. He's a phenomenal footballer, and I'm pleased to inform everyone that we've already had a bit of a conversation with him, and Stephen has been in conversation now for a while. We'd like Lewis to join us to really help us with what we're growing here, and we know you don't lose that spark that he has, and he's still keeping it at Atletico. He still looks good, but I think the contract extension there looks kind of unlikely or less likely, and I think he could be tempted to rejoin his pal Stephen over at Mr. Gerrard over at Aston Villa. We want to play him. We want to build a lot of the team around him, and we feel we can get great supply into him, and we need that clinical finisher. So bringing him in to have him in competition with the likes of Danny Ings is a big one as well. So very excited. Hopefully we can get over the line. We're just having to dot the I's and cross the T's and make sure that there's nothing affecting it, but very excited to get him in for at least a year or 2 contract. Cameron Archer. We've sent this young lad out on loan, and a couple of weeks ago, he was the highest rated youngster under 16 the highest rated youngster, full stop, I should say, in Europe. That's under 21s. So he was outperforming the likes of Trent. He was outperforming loads of key players in the Bundesliga and stuff. His numbers have been absolutely incredible. He scored countless times on his loan at Preston. He looks brilliant. We already knew we had a great player in him, but we just felt he just needed a bit more, and he's proven it. And, we've had conversations now with the backroom staff and with the first team under 23s, and we don't feel that he's going to be happy, playing in that backup kind of, and doesn't really want to go out on loan again. Maybe if we can get a year long over the Bundesliga, we might be open to that. But at this moment in time, we are interested and excited to try and kind of merge him into the first team lineup and see what he can do, because he's definitely got goals in him. He definitely knows what he needs to do, and he's very, very tenacious. So very excited by the youngster. One of the hardest parts of my job is obviously letting players go, and the other harder part of my job is pronouncing people's names. So Irug Bunam, Tim, as he's known, is 18. He's featured in defensive midfield a couple of times so far this season. And it just shows you, we started him not this week, the week before, and he really, really held his own. 18 years of age. It's very, very, very remarkable for a man of his age, a young man with so much to learn still, but also so much quality. And the calm heart and mind he has is what we really were interested in. Now, we are wary not to throw him in too far, too quick. Some of the names, Reece Oxford, I don't know who remembers him over at West Ham a couple of years ago, 16, starts, makes a couple of appearances, and where did that go? So we want to really make sure that we nurture this talent and make sure that we don't throw him in and potentially risk injuries, burn him out too quickly. But yeah, very much a part of our plans for next season.
All right, so we're gonna take a pause and take stock of all the changes you've made. I'm going to throw them up on screen here, just for anybody following along at home. A lot of players there, obviously. I think, the best person probably to have a discussion with is probably bringing JP California back into the circle, because certainly some surprises. I think some deep in the well purchases and some players that I personally would scoff at. But I'll let JP California have his say, because I could see him off camera losing his shit a couple of times. So JP, these are the turns of events that happen over the course of a weekend. All these players happen in one weekend, and now business is done. You've basically been told this is it. We're going into the season with this squad. How are you feeling? Are you in shock? Are you in awe? Are you optimistic? Are you dismayed? How are you feeling?
Well, first off, I am very pleased with a lot of signings. There are quite a bit of signings that I feel are at the level where Villa want to go, where we want to step into that position of 6th, 7th, 8th spot. And I feel like players like Tarkowski and Nketiah and just some of the guys that he brought in, the holding mids that he brought in with Calvin Phillips. I'm not even going to try and say this guy's name. I think that's really going to push us towards that upper level. That's going to get us into the next realm. I'm a little hesitant on a few. I think on a free, Gross is totally worth it, but I don't know how much game time he's going to get over some of the other guys that you've brought in. Bringing in a Calvin Phillips and the other guy from PSV. Okay, so where does he get his Sangari? Where does he get his time in? A player like Luis Suarez, to me, just isn't a guy we need. I don't think we need him because we have the Ashley Young as that senior kind of role player. I think we have Danny Ings, we have Watkins. We'll be bringing in Nketiah, and we'll be promoting Cameron Archer. That's 5 forwards right there for what, you're either looking at a one-man job or a two-man job at most. So we'll be seeing how that goes. You have Burge on this list, but I don't remember you guys talking about Burge. So that might have been missed on my end.
So yes, he was on our list, but he got bumped. Yeah, he's on that list there, Paul.
Senderberg.
Way to highlight the one error in a very long list that nobody watching at home is going to bother reading through. Continue.
Yeah.
Hey, he'd be another guy where it's like, okay, Calvin Phillips and
by the way, and we could talk about this because there's a very deliberate amount of money left on the table. Burge was considered, and Luke just didn't pull the trigger, even though he had 34 million unspent. So in his mind, job done. Didn't need to bring in Sanders Burge. Yeah. So
who's Diaz on the list?
Listen, don't
Diaz
go by this list. How about that?
Yeah.
How about if it wasn't said, stop pointing out the typos in the list.
Otherwise, I'm very happy.
You get that you're not really just a random fan off the street. Like, you're part of our regular crew as well. Like, I just don't understand how you don't get this.
I'm pretending to be the random fan.
Oh my God, this method acting bullshit is nightmare.
I am very happy with the upgrades to midfield. It's very clear Villa's midfield has been significantly lacking, and I feel this step up is really nice. I also believe it gives us a lot of options. You get a lot of young players like Buendia, who is still only like 24, guys like Ramsey, guys like Irobonum and Chukwuemeka. But then you also get some of the senior players and guys who've been around the block, like the Coutinhos, the Gross, the Calvin Phillips, the McGinns. I just feel like the midfield there is what needed to be changed the most. And I'm super excited with not only who you brought in, but how much you spent to bring in those guys. I just felt like you hit the nail on the head on all angles. So I think the fact that you might be pocketing some money too on this whole end puts us in a really good stead.
Appreciate that, Mr. California. That's very kind words, and I'll just speak a little bit to your point on one or two of the players, and that, I understand your concerns and the fans' concerns with the likes of Luis Suarez, but we're a big fan of the Moneyball concept here at as we build, and we feel that there are players that have certain parts of and stats that are going to help. Now, Pascal has a great ability to deliver a very substantial ball. That's something I feel that our end product hasn't, and bringing him in on that free gives us another option. Luis Suarez, no matter his age, we know how successful he is everywhere. We know how clinical. Few strikers, I'd say, in history are as clinical as Luis Suarez. So even if we can have him in that supporting role, we've told him, we've made him understand what we want from him and how he plays into this. And we just need to see how that works. But
can we just drop this fucking pretense?
No, we can't. No, we
You're
can't,
so-
you piece of shit.
This was never part of the exercise that you were actually supposed to play the character, for Christ's sake.
I don't care because you don't do it. Me and JP know exactly
Luke,
what we're doing. But this
you
is a
just
money ball.
participated in a specific kind of exercise because everything was not pie in the sky. Everything was grounded a little bit in the ins and outs and the columns of a ledger, a financial ledger. So with this exercise having been, I think fair to say it's been a few weeks of looking into this kind of stuff. Is there anything that you found surprising as an outcome of the process that gives you a better sense of where the club is or what maybe the scope of the challenge ahead of the summer window looks like for anybody who's trying to improve this team? Because again, obviously we're playing a video game version of Build a Club here. Is there anything that you found that you were really starting to highlight as being, if you had to do 3 signings or a more realistic number, you were really struggling with maybe what those decisions were, or wasn't really clear where the priorities were? Is there any learning from the process that you can share?
Yeah, I appreciate the comment, Mr. Forrest. So me and myself and my team obviously had a number of very difficult decisions to make, and we did struggle. And as the chairman of the fan association board pointed out, there were names that were on our list. Diaz, top goal scorer for Blackburn, and one of the top goal scorers in the championship right now. We had a Sander Berge. I've been a big fan of Sander for a while, and I do believe he has great potential. I really do. We just felt that what made the cut in the end were players with just a little bit more about them. We feel by bringing in the Phillips and by bringing in the Sangare, we kind of fill the holes that we need to fill and just fill them with a little bit more sturdiness than maybe Sander brings in. Sander did have a bit of time in the Premier League, didn't do an amazing job, but he was very young, new to the Premier League, new to the English league. There was an awful lot. It's like, I wouldn't look at Ryan Brewster as a complete waste of time, although he didn't do much, but it was a bad signing. So I think what I found difficult when I was picking this and we were putting this together was that there were a lot of players that we liked, but we had to look at, having had conversations with Mr. Gerrard, what he was looking to play and how he wanted to play and what players kind of fit that mold. So we wanted to get a good rotation because we've seen what teams now in that kind of conversation. Look at what West Ham have achieved, and the only negative that we see with the West Ham team is their therefore lack of rotation. If they lose a couple of key players, they haven't gotten to expect them to buy this summer. So we want to make sure that if we do get ourselves into these conversations, as we believe that we will and should, that we have the players and the squad to handle it. So that was a very good point, Paul. But yeah, it was a
Luke
difficult.
Connolly, you have 3 of your selects to make and only 3. Who are your 3? Of everybody you bought in this fictional game, as a fan, who do you want to see Aston Villa bring in the most?
That is a very good question. Okay, James Tarkowski would be number 1 coming in on that free. It's a brilliant signing. He knows the league. He plays similar football to what we play. Burnley are rough and ready, and he's battle ready. We're talking about transfer war chest. He is war ready. He has English international experience. He's still in that conversation there or thereabouts. I think he's just a great player. So I think he comes in and he can mold very quickly with Mings and Konza and who we have, and very quickly find speed. I think next week if you brought him in, he'd be good to go. So he's number 1. Number 2, let me just have a quick look at my sheet. That's a real tough one. I'm going to say number 2 is Phillips. Calvin Phillips. We need that sort of player right now. Sangare was also very, very close in that conversation just then, but I think Phillips is no. I'm gonna stick with number 2 was Phillips, and there'll be a.
Let me ask you this question to add a question on top of a question. Let's say Phillips is 40 million because they're not going down and it's not a release clause triggered by relegation, and Sangare is 30 million. Between those two choices, are you still comfortable going with Phillips if he's 40 million?
Yeah. I think it's the intensity of a player that we need. I think he brings so much quality to him. We've seen him tested at the highest possible level at the European League finals as a rotation player in England to the first name, one of the first names on the team sheet this year. He really stood out, and I think everyone was put on high alert. So we are very excited by this player, and I think he comes in and does a job and really is, speaks the language, knows a lot of the lads, knows the Tyron Mings, knows a lot of these boys anyways from international and youth and stuff like that. So I think he settles in real nicely with the likes of Watkins and Mings and stuff like that. So yeah, he'd be my number 2.
Last choice.
Yeah.
Last choice.
This is really tough. But if we're going last choice, I am going to go with. I'm going to go with Nketiah. I think Nketiah, I really like this kid. I really rate Eddie. I think in the short time he's been given a bit of an opportunity at Arsenal, he has more than rewarded them. And you look at players that don't get given the chance and they get all frustrated and upset, and then they don't do it when they do get given because they've got all that pressure. He doesn't look like it's affected him. He looks like he wants to play football. He seems very calm, very collected, not worried about big personalities who you have to keep under control. We love Jack here, and Jack was a bit of Jack the lad and a bit of a young lad that we had to keep an eye on. So I think Eddie comes in. He's got a very mature head for a young lad and a humongous career. I forget his age off the top of my head. I think he's 24, 25. And so an incredible career ahead of him. And I think why I like him as my third choice here is that the Danny Ings we know Ings is a finisher. And we still haven't been given Ings everything that he needs to succeed, but it's starting to work. I think it's been starting to work.
Ooh.
But I think Eddie gives us a good option there as a support 3 with a Watkins maybe, or if it's not working, I think Eddie could do a job alongside maybe a Watkins and someone else. But I think Eddie is definitely adding to rather than taking away.
All right, JP California, you get asked the same question. You can prioritize 3 of the players that were just discussed by Luke, or you could throw another player on the mix. But if you had to prioritize 3 players this summer transfer window, who are you after?
First off, is it interesting that Luke only picks Englishmen? 3 Englishmen.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Irish and heart there. Irish and heart, so it's tough for me, but yeah. No language barriers.
Yeah, language barrier is a big thing. All right, one side question: is Philip Coutinho already signed by Villa?
No.
Okay, then I have to go with Philip Coutinho as number 1.
Your priority is locking down Philip Coutinho.
Yes.
Okay.
He brings us a lot of know-how. He brings us a lot of guile. He brings us a knowledge about the game that is just above the level of a lot of guys. And it's very clear to see with his intricate play how he does things. He brings other guys up to a level. And while we have a Buendia who is playing very well, I think Philip Coutinho has a lot of options in him that a lot of people we haven't quite used yet. I think we could use him on the left. I think we could use him as that kind of withdrawn striker if need be. I think he has just a little bit more in him, and for the price and the age, I think he's a proper guy. Number 2, I am going to agree with Luke and go with Tarkowski. I think.
Not him.
Oh, not him. That's Luke's love child, by the way.
By the way, what a pretty boy, eh? Look at this kid.
He is Luke's love child, man. But I'm going to go with
Tarkowski, not a pretty boy.
I'm going to go with this brick face here.
That's why he's at Burnley. That's why he's at Burnley.
But he actually started off a model and then he went to Burnley, and now look at him. A few years at Burnley.
he is just so impressive in the defense. I don't watch a lot of Burnley games, but we played him for the first time this other day. And, you know, they gave up 2 goals in pretty quick succession. But as soon as he stepped off the field, they lost possession of the ball. They lost any communication out of the back. He was their leader. And I feel like having a center back that's a leader is a really big thing. We have one in Mings, but I feel like having that second one to mix would be just huge, especially on a free. I think many clubs in all of England and probably all of Europe are going to be after him on a free this summer. So I would take him in a heartbeat.
I could speak of my own like observations about him because I'm a center back by trade as well. Like he's an organizer. He's just very good at organizing a team that is only in the Premier League because they're so defensively organized. And he's a combative little fucker. Like, he's like 6'1", 6'2". He's not giant either. Like he is deceptively bigger than maybe he looks. But he is so good at being at the right time and place to block a shot. Like his instincts are so on point. But I don't know what that looks like when they have more of the ball. I don't know what his.
That's the point, though. What makes a great centre back? If you think of, you take a great example in Jamie Carragher. Jamie Carragher was never quick. He was never, there was players that had better potential than Jamie Carragher. But what he did, what the likes of John Terry did, and if you really go really deep, you could go the Nestors, things like that. Like they read the game. They are incredibly communicative on the pitch. They let people know where they need to be and how they need to be. And they are willing to put their body in the line. And that's what I'll always say with Mings, the conversation. I will never, ever say that Mings is not, loud on the pitch. I'll never say that he's not putting his absolute all and throwing himself into everything he does. And so if you're looking for just the core foundations of a solid centre-back, those old-fashioned, dare I say, English centre-backs, that's what you're looking for. And I think,
it's so amazing that you bring everything back to English. I think JP's onto something. I'm going to stop because Courtney House is being described by Matt C.
I want to address that.
I'm going to call it out because, Matt, you may have mixed this, but one of the first things we did in this exercise, Luke sold Courtney, said bye-bye.
For 5
years.
Sorry, Matt.
You're saying, forget Tarkowski. We want to keep Courtney.
To me, he's saying, forget Tarkowski, who is one of the top center backs in the whole EPL for his defensive numbers, and keep Aston Villa's 4th string left center back, who is injury prone. To me, it's a no-brainer. Courtney House needs to go. He's never taken Mings out of the rotation. He's never looked like he's going to really displace Mings. And, we need to move on past those players like him and Trezeguet.
So
thank you, Matt.
Hold on. I got one more guy, right?
You're a crack at it.
Yeah. I just want to circle back because again, I think we talked about Tarkowski and then we got onto this whole what makes a great English center back. I'm just going to ask the question though. When you're defending
the English Premier League,
that's great. That doesn't mean we have to reference everybody as being an English player. It's an international league.
No, we didn't. But it helps.
Listen, you got a big boner for English players. We all know it. Burnley being such a defensive unit, they are a specific kind of animal in the Premier League. Does Tarkowski have the skill set to be a build the ball out from the back kind of defender? Because the modern center back is not the Jamie Carragher model anymore, although he was very good with bringing the ball up from the back because he started as a midfield player. There is question marks about his ball playing, and does he need to be at Aston Villa? That's kind of my question. Because
I don't think he really needs.
My understanding is that Mings and Konza is that they have been more efficient at playing the ball out of the back, and that's one of the things I've always heard about Mings as being a good center back. It's because he's actually pretty good with the ball. That's why he's part of the England setup where they do try to bring the ball out from the back quite often. I don't know how effective he is ultimately, but it's been said of his traits. Whereas with Tarkowski, that's the one thing I don't know if we know enough about, because Burnley, you don't see that week to week because he's so defensive. They start the game defending, they end the game defending. Everything is 90 minutes of just concentration and closing down. So that's my one question mark of, I love the guy, and every other variable of a center back, I love the guy, but I can see how other clubs may not go for him if there's that outstanding quality that the modern center back for a lot of teams might need. And I don't know if that requirement is needed at Aston Villa. It's a legitimate question of what is the skill set a center back needs to bring to Aston Villa.
Yeah.
But what is the main skill set that the best centre-back in the world in Van Dijk has? Yes, he can ping a ball, but he has such ability in front of him, and he has...
I think it's because he's fast as hell and huge.
No,
it's you can't use the best player in that position because he's strong at every variable. He doesn't have any weaknesses. That's why he's the best.
Well, no, he does. He's been turned inside out before. He definitely has
Every
some
center
weakness.
back has, man. His one-on-one skills are like
unreal.
But hang on, you've made a point, and I'm showing you why it's not so much of an issue for us, because we don't need him to be. If we have enough quality directly in front of him, looking to receive the ball, strong centre mids, defensive mids, then we have a very quick, very rapid left back, right back. We have that around him. Hey, I'm happy to have two old blocky centre backs that put themselves up high in the air, throw themselves around, hurt the opposition, stud them here or there, let them know that they're there, and then just win the ball and defend as we need them to do, and then just clear their lines.
All right. Well, Tarkowski is your guy for sure then.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Your last pick, JP California.
So Philip Coutinho, Tarkowski, and then I am on the fence between so many players like Boubacar Kamara, Calvin Phillips, Basuma, and Sangari. And in my head, I'm going to go with Basuma as a holding mid, pulled out of nowhere. You probably don't have him on the character watch. But he's probably going to go anywhere between 30 to 40 mil, maybe as low as 25 because he's entering the last year of his contract. He's mobile. He is large. He has a great passing range. I know he likes to get up as well. He seems to be able to be very press resistant. Villa do really, they're dying for a legit holding mid. Calvin Phillips is high on my list, but he's just, to me, he's a little injury prone. I want somebody that's a little bit more through a whole season. He has a great passing range, Calvin Phillips too. And I like Basuma because he's in the EPL, but he doesn't necessarily have to be English, right? I like Boubacar Kamara and I like Sangiri, but they both, as far as I know, don't speak English, and which I do think does play in a little bit to players settling. And I'm just not quite sure how they would settle into the EPL, where I feel like Basuma would not need time to adjust to an Aston Villa team with players in front of him like Buendia, Coutinho, McGinn, Ramsey. I feel like those type of guys would do very well to have a guy like that in the holding mid.
Any concern that he's not technically a holding mid in like the defined, he is a CDM, like he is a box-to-box midfield player that can defend very well. He's more of a well-rounded 8.
Well, the good thing is with John McGinn and him, they're both kind of like 8s that can both also tuck in when need be. And I feel like that would complement him very well with another young player in the form of Jacob Ramsey, who is also a legit, very good number 8.
For sure.
I know Luke has chosen the 4-2-3-1, which is very interesting because Steven Gerrard right now is playing more of a 4-3-1-2, or almost like
that was a recent change.
He's kind of playing almost like a 4-4-2 diamond in the middle. And so if we were going to stick with a 4-4-2 diamond in the middle, I think Basuma at the bottom with McGinn and Ramsey, or McGinn and Buendia, or McGinn and whoever would be like a very solid combo 3 there.
Well, I think he could definitely do the job. He does do it occasionally at Brighton. He's not He's not a defensive midfield player. They just don't play with him technically. He gets called that a lot, but he's not really.
But to spend 40 million JP and a player that's technically not a central defensive midfielder, which is really what we need. We have that number 8 in John McGinn. We have phenomenal ball players who can move. Ramsey is very, very smooth with the ball on his feet. And Basuma worries me for 2 additional reasons. He's young, right? He's 25. He's a good age, like fairly mature. But this is still the same Basuma that called himself the best player in the Premier League a number of months ago.
Yes.
So that's a little thing that worries me, that he believes a bit much of his own hype and how much of that personality is able to be controlled. It's only in one season really that he's really looked like a good player. Now, there's also the worry that in 24 appearances, he's picked up 10 yellow cards. Now, that is, your Douglas Luiz does that as well. Calvin Phillips has picked up 2 yellow cards. And I think what that shows is a bit more sense of how to read the game, a bit more understanding on how and where he needs to be in, and not needing to give away that far. I feel that he's a little jumpy, Basuma, and as much as I am a fan, and if we we brought him in now, you'd have no complaints from me whatsoever. But at the price point that's being talked at the talk of other clubs being interested, I feel there's better option at better price points that are obviously going to help us out. And that's why he missed out in the end. But otherwise, he was in until literally today. Like I scrapped him for. Yeah,
if I'm going to give a nod to Luke's choice over Basuma when he picked Calvin Phillips, there's something I like about Calvin Phillips. I think everybody likes it. JP mentioned that he's concerned about his injury record, which I think is totally legit. I do think not playing at Leeds under Bielsa does help with his injury management, because he's not necessarily playing at that Bielsa ball pace.
For sure.
He's capable of playing that way, which is probably very useful. But if you softened his running job and made it more about ball distribution and breaking up play, and like kind of protected his career a little bit, I think he was fine at Leeds if there was rotation at that position. But I think what ends up happening at Leeds is that everybody eventually the wheels fall off because they're just running so much.
Yeah.
And I mean, I hope that he can recover fully and that he can end the season strong. But that in the back of my head is why I even at Man United consider him as a viable option, especially if they go down. 25 million is a fucking snippet. Like I would snap your hand off if I got him for 25 million.
To me, I think Calvin Phillips needs to be tied with another holding mid or another 8 that's going to be a little close to him, a guy that's a runner, maybe even a John McGinn. I would like John McGinn further up the field, but like if you put Basuma and Calvin Phillips, oh my God. Like I feel that's a center mid holding pair that is on. You got the passing range of Calvin Phillips and you get the speed and the legs of Basuma, and I think you're covering everything. I mean, those two guys make Conte, but whatever. Like I'll take 2 players playing Conte's role.
It's so interesting because I'm a Man United fan, and I think a lot of what you guys are talking about is the same thing we're talking about as a fan base, is that we're kind of rebuilding our midfield from a position of like, wow, I mean, we don't really have one. So like if we're going to start over with a new manager and a new midfield, what do we want to look like? And it's always come up as being combinations of 2 defensively strong midfield players that can also move the ball and have passing range. So we're saying the same names you guys are saying, except we're also saying Ruben Neves and a bunch of other guys.
If it was same question you asked me earlier in regards to if you had the choice and we had a Declan Rice at 68, 70 million or a Calvin Phillips at 30, and you can have one of them, who are you having?
I would not be getting Declan Rice. I'm an opposed view of Declan Rice at Man United.
What? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is it because of his ties in Chelsea? Why? It can't be because of his playing style or
no.
skill.
It's not. He's a great player. I'd love him at Man United. I would love him at Man United, but not for the prices that are being like said.
Well, we're saying like 75 mil.
I mean, maybe. I mean, even then maybe, but we've got so much.
So you take Phillips over Rice in that comparison.
It almost has to be part of the context of the other players that we can bring in. Like Phillips, I'm a fan of, but Sangare is one of the guys that you considered. I've been a fan of his for like months now. Like I think he's a much cheaper option and he's a defensive midfield player.
But I don't see Sangare going to United.
But I'm giving an example. I don't see a Rice going to United. So like I don't know where that ends. Also, I mean, Sangare would go to United. I don't know why you're saying that.
Because I think it's too big of a step up, Paul. I think PSV to United I think Rice fits what United are looking at a rebirth. They're looking at we need to show the world that we are Man United, and Rice does that. Sangare does it. He's a great player, and he could be a great option.
If the conversation is we're going to go to him, he's not going to say no. He's not. No player says I'm not ready for that step. Like they They just don't. Whether or not we should go for him because of what you just said, it's a different story.
I don't think you go for him.
My concern for Declan Rice is that it's not 75 million. That's never going to happen. It's the prices we're being quoted are ridiculous. Whenever we know we need a star player at a certain position, that star player is 50 million more than it should be. So I don't want to be going into the summer window being held ransom when we don't need one star player. We need 5 really good players at the positions that we need them in. And Declan Rice, as good as he is, we're not built to make the most out of that signing. We need more bodies across more positions than we need to have one chunk of our investment into Declan Rice. He's great. It's got nothing to do with him, really. It's not. Like, he's an amazing defensive midfield player. But
so let's say you got him for 80 million with add-ons, or you got Phillips for 30. Who are you having? That was the question. You haven't answered it.
I did answer. I still said Phillips.
Okay.
I'm opposed to Declan Rice. Declan Rice is too expensive for what we need.
Okay. Fair enough.
I mean, Declan Rice comes in for 50 or 60. Fucking yes, man. 70, yeah, maybe, depending on how much money we have to spend over the summer. But I mean, we've been told rumors that we're only going to have like 150 to spend. Half of that money on one defensive midfield player really puts us at a pigeonhole for the rest of the positions we need to fill.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
It will be
Declan Rice is not going to all of a sudden be Declan Rice playing beside Scott McTominay or Fred. Like, there's other bodies we need even in the midfield. But instead of buying 2 midfield players of quality, we've spent it all on one. And we've also probably chipped away at the money we need to spend on a striker, because we also need to spend money on a striker.
It will be interesting to see where Tielemans goes.
It's a crazy summer.
Yeah, it's going to be
wildly off topic, though, because the game again was Aston
absolutely.
Villa. We have an entire dedicated show to just talking shit about the Premier League and these kind of questions on our weekly show. You can catch that on the North End. But beyond that, all I can say is this has been fun. Luke, good job. JP, way to keep your anger in check. You only threatened to kill him once. That was great.
He's gonna scream.
That was amazing.
Unless
Unless you guys have anything else to say.
Shaver.
Yeah, we're not going to plug Manscaped today because you know why? I'm tired of talking about it. I'm talking about it to my friends, to my family, to my various girlfriends on the side. I'm just tired of talking about Manscaped. It's just revolutionary, and it changed my mind. Like, it's just
the smooth shave feel and just all those accessories. God. And that exclusive 20% off code that we get.
One up someone. No one wants a one upper, right?
No, exactly.
No, nobody wants a one upper. Okay, boys, end it.
That's
say
goodbye.
Ended it. You just want to be like,
support the channel. Give us a like, give us a subscribe.
Peace.
Bye.
This is the North End. This is the North End.